I'm Danny Epperson inside the gorgeous Commodore Dinner Theater in downtown Portsmouth. Thanks for joining me for WHRO's Cinema 15 and this week's presentation of the 1962 epic Lawrence of Arabia. When the American Film Institute announced its list of the 10 greatest epic films, nobody was surprised to see Lawrence of Arabia at number 1. Movies don't get much more epic than David Lean's 1962 masterpiece. Lawrence of Arabia tells the incredible story of T.E. Lawrence, an Oxford-educated British officer who became one of the most colorful and controversial heroes of World War I. In 1916, Lawrence was sent into the desert to gather intelligence on the Arab revolt against the Turks. Instead, he became a leader who helped unite the Arab tribes and led daring raids over terrain so inhospitable that desert nomads called it the Terror. For David Lean, filming a war story that took place over hundreds of miles of Middle Eastern desert was not going to be an easy task. But he and producer Sam Spiegel were up for the challenge and eager to repeat the success of their 1957 hit, The Bridge on the River Kwai. Peter O'Toole was a relative newcomer when he signed on to play T.E. Lawrence, but his stunning performance launched the young Shakespearean stage actor to superstardom. The film's supporting cast includes Alec Guinness, Anthony Quinn, and Omar Sharif. But there's one major character that doesn't get a screen credit: the desert. The studio suggested saving money by shooting in California, but Lean insisted on filming the story where it actually happened. That meant transporting a film crew of more than 200, organizing 600 local extras, and rounding up hundreds of horses and camels to shoot on location in the most remote parts of Jordan, Morocco, Spain, and the Sahara. The shooting schedule was appropriately epic. Production lasted more than 2 years. When it was released in December of 1962, Lawrence of Arabia became a critical and box office phenomenon around the world. At the 1963 Academy Awards, Lawrence of Arabia was nominated for 10 Oscars and took home 7, including the Golden Statue for Best Picture, Best Director, and Best Original Score. I'll be back after the movie to tell you more about the unique challenges of filming in 120-degree heat and how Peter O'Toole invented a better way to ride a camel. But for now, pour yourself a tall glass of water and settle in for Lawrence of Arabia. That's a film that deserves to be called a classic. Every shot, every scene, every transition feels like art. David Lean's visual style influenced many directors, including Stanley Kubrick, Martin Scorsese, and Steven Spielberg, who said that Lawrence of Arabia is his all-time favorite movie and inspired him to become a filmmaker. It's hard to imagine anyone but Peter O'Toole leading the charge, but he wasn't Lean's first choice for the role. Albert Finney and Anthony Perkins didn't work out, and Marlon Brando turned down the role because he didn't want to spend 2 years of his life on a camel. O'Toole was up for the adventure and arrived on location 3 months early to learn how to ride a camel. He was taught by the real-life grandson of Atta Abuteya, played in the film by Anthony Quinn. Despite the training, O'Toole found riding camels extremely uncomfortable. So during a break in filming, he bought a piece of foam rubber to soften his saddle.
Within a month, every Bedouin wanted some sponge rubber. So my contribution to Arab civilization is the introduction of sponge rubber for Bedouin to ride on saddles. And I was with these Bedouin for 9 months. They gave me several names, but the first name the Bedouin gave me was Abu Svinj, because it's the nearest they could get to sponge. And finally they called me Fahad, which I was very proud of. It means young lion.
To this day, many Bedouins still add foam rubber to their saddles. His character may have loved the desert, but Peter O'Toole did not. Filming in such a harsh location took its toll. During the day, it could get as hot as 120 degrees, and it was freezing cold at night. The cast and crew fought a losing battle against the sand that found its way into everything from cameras to coffee cups. And then, after every rehearsal and take, crew members had to smooth out the sand to erase the footprints. Making a movie in the middle of nowhere could also get boring. When they weren't shooting, there was very little to do. No smartphones to play with back then. The nearest towns were often more than 100 miles away and offered little in the way of nightlife. So whenever there was a break, O'Toole and Omar Sharif would fly to Beirut for a few wild days of ice baths, air conditioning, and champagne. Sounds like fun, but I can't imagine coming back and having to ride a camel with a champagne hangover. I'm Danny Epperson, and I'll see you next time for WHRO Cinema 15 and another classic movie.